Okay. I'm going to take my gloves off to do this. Now remember, when you're out here, wintertime, it's cold, you want to protect your clothes, alright? These things keep you warm. So when you take your gloves off, never throw them on the snow. And don't leave them hanging up somewhere because you might forget them. Instead, I like to take my gloves and stuff them inside my clothing, in between the layers. That not only keeps them on me, so I know where they are, keeps them dry, and also keeps them warm. So when I put my hands back in, I don't have to rely on my hands to warm the gloves back up. So the first thing I want to do is I gathered some birch bark. I want to brush some of the excess snow away. Now if this was deep, I'd pack it down with my feet. You want to tear up your bark. Pretty much like I showed in the other fire videos that I have. Make a nice little nest. And over here I've got a bunch of small hemlock kindling. See, in this case the birch bark would be my tinder, and this stuff here would be the kindling. Now since birch bark burns so hot, I don't have to be real careful with how small my kindling is. I did not pick this off the ground though. I did break it off the trees because it's dry. If it's on the ground, it has a tendency to absorb moisture, and then in the winter it freezes. And so even though you pick it up and it may seem dry, when you put it on the fire and the fire starts to thaw it out, you'll notice that it'll put your fire out pretty quick because it's wet and all that moisture is melting all over your brand new fire. And fire is a lot like infants and the growth of a creature. When it begins, it's very delicate, very fragile, just like an infant, no matter what species that infant may be from. Notice I'm stacking the branches in a triangle or teepee fashion. And so the new flame has to be nurtured just like the infant. As the flame grows, it becomes more independent, just like all other creatures in life, until it's large enough to where it can support itself, so long as it has food. If you get a nice fire with a good coal base, it can rain, it won't put it out. It can snow, it won't put it out, so long as you're there to give it fresh food every once in a while. Now you'll notice that I got extra here, okay? I've seen a lot of people, they get just the bare minimal to start the fire, and then they get the fire going, and then they have to run around like crazy trying to gather cordwood, some kind of bulk wood, to feed the fire because they didn't think ahead and they forgot to get this kind of wood. And normally by the time they get back, what they started, there's not enough left to burn this type of wood. So when you're out here, you've got to prepare ahead. You've got to think everything through before you do it. That's very important. Now, notice I have the fire built right next to this, this root bundle to keep it protected from the west winds and the storms. I'm also doing this because the fire is going to reflect off of this root bundle, this dirt and rock. It will reflect and it will intensify the heat in the place that I'm going to be sitting and enjoying the fire. I can also stick wood behind the fire if it's wet between the fire and the root bundle, and that heat will dry it for me so that I can put it on the fire after it's dry. The wind won't affect this fire nearly as much as if I had it somewhere else on this hillside. And back here is a good area where I can put, say, my cup, okay, to keep my water or my tea warm. Instead of trying to sit it out here or stuff it in the coals, I can sit things behind the fire. And I can store my coals. I can push my coals from the fire as it burns back here against the dirt, which will help insulate the coals. I can turn this whole area behind the fire, between the fire and the root bundle, into a coal storage, where I can easily take a nice piece of bark and shovel those coals out anytime I want without affecting my fire, to cook with or to put in a hole that I dug in my shelter to keep warm. Whatever it may be, I have the coals here. But if you have it sitting out, your fire is built out in the flatland where it's windy, it's exposed to the elements a lot more, those coals that you scoot to the side are going to cool down because they don't have any insulation. So here works just like if I have it built up against a rock or a hillside. Now, since I have the basic fire lay together here, now you want to remember that while you're building the fire, it's all right to kneel on the ground and do what you have to do. But afterwards, you don't want to be sitting on the ground, okay? The cold earth will suck the heat right out of your body. And again, having the fire next to the embankment here, next to the root bundle, means that I can burn a lower fire, a smaller fire, because the heat will be intensified, so I won't have to waste wood. If you have it sitting out in the middle of nowhere, you're going to be burning a lot more wood to try to stay warm. Notice I continue to feed it while it's young. Don't light the fire and just leave it alone, alright? It needs attention. Many people who have a hard time keeping a fire going have a hard time because they don't give the fire enough food. And the fire starves. So now, I've got the fire going plenty good where I can easily wander around and grab some more wood and bring it back. But I still have extra wood here that I can easily throw on. And boy, the reflection of heat off this dirt is already making this area really, really hot. That's going good enough. Now what I need is a small seat, alright? Now, if the unfortunate part about the root bundle is the trees on the other side, which would be a great seat, except obviously my fire's over here. White Wolf, Ways of the Wild Institute in Vermont.